good day, everyone, and welcome back to Mommy Guide Inc. This is day 2 of my craft every day in August. So, if you are new to the channel and you don't know what is CEDA, that's craft every day in August. So I do this every year for the past couple of 3 years where I go live every day doing different crafty avenues. But for this year and in the month of August, I decided to actually revisit the basics of so many other things. So if you actually missed day 1 yesterday, you can still watch it on replay where we talked about the basic tools that you need for different kinds of crafts. And most of these crafts are the crafts that you actually can see in my channel. And there are those of you who are actually very early. Sorry, I had to move my live for a little bit because I did have a Bible study since it's Sunday. So I do lead a Bible study for ladies, specifically for solo parents. Earlier on. So, and then I had dinner. So I'm a little bit late. So sorry about that. And hi, Laurie. Good morning. Yes, the time just changed. Laurie always sees it when I change, right? So yes, it was supposed to be 9 o'clock. Then I moved it to 9:15, and then I had a little bit of a tech issue, so it got moved further to 9:17. So thank you so much. Okay, yes. Bye, Anne. Yes, so Anne was here a little bit. I'm okay. I'm okay. It's just that, sorry guys, I had to start a little bit late. Hi, Anne-Marit. Good afternoon, my friend. Yes, she's late. I'm so sorry. Fashionably late. There you go. Hi. 8 minutes. Yes, I was 8 minutes late. You're on point, Anne-Marit. All right. So, and there's my moderator daughter, because on top of Bible study, we also have an ongoing class right now on Zoom, and moderator daughter is taking care of that. So I hope that you are all having a wonderful crafty weekend. And if you watched yesterday for me, was it earlier for you? Yes, also yesterday for you, right? The Crafty Fun Friends at LV Handcrafted's channel. That was so much fun. We learned so much about what happened in Paper Ganza for a lot of us in the community. A lot of you were there, and thank you so much for sharing. I really had an amazing time, hearing from everybody what had transpired. There you go. Hi, Susan. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much, my dear friends, for being here early. And of course, we have Vicky. Hi, Vicky. Good morning. Good morning, my friends. Yes, so a little things have been happening. I'm testing out what if I don't put a background music? All right, and a countdown timer. So normally for the past couple of 4 years, I always have a countdown timer. I always have background music. So I'm just testing, and I'll share with you what I see at the back end of the analytics. After, let's say, maybe we'll do it for a week. All right. And then after that, okay, we will check out. Yes, cannot stay just long. Wanted to just say hi. Thank you so much, Vicky. All right. Okay, to me. It was Laurie that said bye to me. Oh, okay. So Laurie was the one who needed to go. Okay. Sorry, Anne-Marie. See, that is what happens when one is late. All right. So for today, it's all about the basics of paper. For all of us a lot of us actually in the community where I belong are paper crafters, scrapbookers, card makers, right? And DIY projects. So paper is a very important staple raw material, so to speak, when we do our creative projects. All right, so let me see this one. Yes. So we do go back to the basics about everything paper. All right. So, why paper matters? Of course, paper is the foundation of many crafting techniques. And it affects the structure and durability. It affects also ink behavior, right? So for those who would love to dabble on to stamping and other things that needs inking, like mixed media. Okay, so paper is also very important. And of course, the overall aesthetic or look Okay, so again, this is very basic. So if you are a seasoned crafter already, this might come is that like just like a what going down memory lane, right? So for those who are absolute beginners on in paper crafting and you would want to like know how do you actually how do you understand paper, okay, more, okay, as a crafter. All right, and then you have the basic paper types. Okay, I'll just need to move this a bit. There you go. Maybe a little bit. There you go. So, what are the basics of paper types? All right. So, you have what we call copy paper. Here in the Philippines, most of us call it bond paper or coupon bond. Actually, it's spelled coupon, but we say coupon, right? So coupon, okay, or coupon band or copy paper actually for our friends who are in the other side of the globe. So a copy paper is the one that you actually use for printing or sketching, and normally you would see 70 to 80 GSM on the packaging. Don't worry, we will go into that in a little bit. All right. And then we have cardstocks. Okay. So for those who are into card making, scrapbooking, paper crafting, this is something that they know by heart, right? So cardstocks are quite thicker than your copy paper. They're normally 200 to 300 GSM. Okay, and mostly they're used for card bases and also for die cutting. And then you have the textured cardstock. Okay, so these are normally used for backgrounds. Like I, for one, love creating projects that have texture, okay, and layers. Okay, and then you have pattern papers. From the word itself, yes, it means decorative use. So you can use those as an awesome background, or you can fussy cut around it, right? So those are your pattern papers. And then you have vellum. Okay, so these are basically your translucent layering papers. So sometimes also parchment paper. So there you go. And then you have craft paper. Hold on. I think some pages, words are missing. Okay, there you go. All right. So as I was saying, you have craft paper. All right. So this is the brown rustic tags that normally we use for journaling or also for card bases or your scrapbook paper or background. And of course, your specialty paper. And these are your foiled, glittered, and holographic, and what have you. All right. So again, Susan T, thank you so much for dropping by, my dear friend. It's very early for you guys, so I do really appreciate it. And for those who are off to work, oh, but it's a Sunday, so probably this is your time to have, family bonding or me time, right? Hi, Linda. Good evening to you. Good morning to you, my friend. Yes, good morning, Linda. This is Vicky. Right. So this is her channel name. She has just recently become a content creator on YouTube and she has joined us. So please do welcome Vicky. She is VJ Design. So if you have not checked out her channel, I highly suggest that you do so. And please do consider subscribing as well. All right. So on that note, yes, so let's go back to our outline. See, I'm sweating like crazy because it's very, very hot. Okay, here in the Philippines, hot and humid. All right. Then now we go to GSM explained. So what is GSM? Right? So we always see that as part of when you see a paper. Okay, so let's say a specific number, 70, 80, 100, 120, 200, 300, and then you see the words or the acronym GSM. All right, so GSM actually stands for grams per square meter. Okay, so a square meter more or less is like from the tip of my finger, more or less up to, okay, that's a yard here. Okay, the edge of like near my armpit, near my shoulder. Okay, more or less that is okay, an estimate of what uh, meter is, and of course the yard is up to here from the tip to the tip of your finger. All right, so grams per square meter. Okay, so normally the higher the GSM number, okay, it means it's thicker and sturdier. Like in my case, my card bases are between 270 GSM to 300 GSM. I like it because it's sturdier. It could withstand the rigors of putting, because I like putting layers. And at the same time, oftentimes I ink them, right? So even though it may not be a watercolor paper, if it's a little bit sturdier, thicker, it's better. It will be able to survive the rigors of all of the things you want to do with it better. All right. So now we have like 70 to 100 GSM. That's what we call your light or print paper. Again, like your copy paper. And then when you have your 120 to 160 GSM, that means a medium size or medium thick, okay, paper. Normally for the inserts of your cards. And then when you have, and normally this is the ones that if you want to make your own cards and you want to print it, okay, most printers are okay with a paper up to about 160, 180 GSM. Thicker than that, there are printers which may not be able to feed it properly. You're going to be having a little bit of an issue as the paper gets thicker. Not all, like Canon, from experience, can withstand up to about 200 to 220 GSM, but most Epson printers cannot. Freely, it can handle up to about 160, 180 GSM. Thicker than that, you're going to have a problem. All right. And then, of course, you have your 300 plus. Okay, 300 to 300 plus GSM. And these are your extra heavy. And normally it's for your chipboards or ESCA boards. Okay, like for the covers of your mini albums or your boxes. All right. So I hope that that is clear. Okay, so that is GSM explained. All right, moving on to the next one. So must know crafting paper terms. All right. So if you are going to be dabbling in paper crafting, these are some very important words that will really help you as you journey through this awesome craft. All right. So we have acid free. Okay. So paper, okay, normally can have acid, especially if, in the process of creating it. Okay, some of the ingredients might oxidize and thus lead to oxidation, becoming more acidic in the future. Normally, in the beginning, it's quite stable, but after several years or months, or depending upon how the storage condition is, okay, some of the materials in your paper can become acidic, especially those which are recycled. Okay, so if you are a scrapbooker and you want things to be archival, meaning to last about 10 to 20 years or so, then you need, or you may want to consider using acid-free paper. All right, and it will say so on the label. Okay, so if there's none on the label, okay, just be careful, okay? So if you're just going to use this for your cards or DIY projects or things that really does not need to withstand like years and years of use, then you're good to go, right? And then you have lignin free, okay? So lignin free, it actually makes the project, it prevents it from becoming brittle. You know how it is with like paper? After so many years when you touch, okay, it's like becomes powdery and then becomes very, very brittle, right? So that's why you also want lignin free. So again, if your purpose is to create memories and you want it to withstand the test of time and other elements, so consider having acid free and lignin free paper. Okay, and then you have what we call decal edge papers. Okay, so vintage, it does have that vintage edge look. You know, the ones that have like in the olden days, right? So they kind of burn the sides of the paper so it looks uneven, right? And it has that torn effect, and that sometimes you add ink or you like burn the sides to make it look vintage, right? And then you have cold pressed, okay, and hot pressed paper. Okay, so cold pressed, it's textured and it's watercolor paper, and this is the more expensive watercolor paper, right? And normally, if you want your watercolor paper, or your, if you're gonna create like a work of art using watercolor as your medium, then most artists prefer using the cold pressed watercolor paper. Again, it's more expensive and it has a higher cotton content. The hot press, on the other hand, okay, it's normally smooth watercolor paper. Okay, it's less expensive. And take note, okay, I actually learned this just a few, I think maybe 2 years ago, that watercolor papers do expire. I know because I hoarded, okay, this watercolor paper that we used, like, I think during the thick of the pandemic. And unknowns to me, the reason why it became actually quite cheap than what it normally would sell for a cold processed or for a cold pressed watercolor paper is because that it was very near its expiration date, right? So when it becomes expired, it's just that, you know, the play of watercolor on the paper is not as nice as that of when they are still good watercolor paper, so to speak, right? But for the our purpose, we're mostly, like in my case, I just use it to make cards or mix media, and then it's absolutely fine, right? And then you have your matte versus glossy. So I know that you know this, like you have photos that are matte and then you have photos that are glossy. Normally, glossy papers are more vibrant, right? Shinier. Okay, but then sometimes or oftentimes I prefer the matte paper to the glossy one. Okay, especially when I work with inks. Okay, and then of course you have the single versus double sided. So there are papers that are only printed on one side, white on the other, or double sided, where you may have one color on one side, another color on the other side, or a pattern on one side, another pattern on the other side, or one pattern here and one solid here that coordinates. All right, so those are just must know paper crafting terms. If you do have a question, just feel free to put them in the chat. Again, if you are new to the channel, I hope that you would consider subscribing or looking up the other videos that we have in that channel. Again, today is the basics of paper. Okay, not a very exciting topic, right? But again, still very, very important for a beginner. All right, so what makes paper good for crafting? All right, so wait. You all have to think of, can it hold embellishments? So if you want to put a lot of decorations, we call that embellishments. Of course, you have to think of, if you're going to use a flimsy paper, how will it handle the things that you want to put on top of it? So that's one thing that you should consider. Another, texture. Okay, do you want smooth or rough? Depends on the project and the feel and the look that you would want your project to be. And of course, coating. Okay, so do you want, let's say, inks to be absorbed, or do you want your papers or your projects to be protected, right? So coating is another thing that you should take into consideration, specifically with the coated papers, like for example, your glossy papers. Okay, most of them are coated, so think about that one. And then of course, color. It impacts your design and appearance. Yes, so papers come in different sizes, texture, color. All right, so you all need to take into consideration these things based on the project that you are using. Yes, that's a lot of combos, right, Susan? Yes, and Linda is saying hi to everybody. Okay, Susan specifically in the chat. Now, how about paper for specific crafts? I already mentioned earlier about, archival safe, lignin free for those who want to dabble onto memory keeping or scrapbooking. How about the others? All right, so let's go into card making. So for card making, normally you're safe to use cardstocks from medium to heavy. Again, depends on the purpose and what you're going to use it for and what you're going to put on top of it. And then you have stamping paper. All right. So some papers normally are better for stamping, especially for stamping. Of course, you do want to have those crisp lines and images, right? So in doing so, you would want to try to avoid papers that have texture, that have ridges, so that your images are crisp. And normally you would want one that is smooth, white, or watercolor. Okay? The thing with having it really white is because, especially if you're going to color it later, it makes the color be a truer color of itself when the background is absolutely white. So no white paper are actually equal. Some are whiter than others, so to speak. All right. And then, of course, you have your watercoloring paper or watercolor paper. And normally, the thicker the GSM, okay, the better. Okay, again, grams per square meter. The nice thing about GSM is that it's international. Your 300 GSM in the US compared to a paper that is 300 GSM here in the Philippines is actually would have the actual same specification in terms of weight, okay, and thickness. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later on. And then, of course, if you want to do die cutting, when you want to die cut images or letters or words, using paper that has a lot of fiber would be an issue, could be an issue. And then also paper that is very thin. Okay, so the thicker, it's like in the middle. Because if it's too thick as well, it's kind of harder as well to die cut. So it's between the medium heavy to the heavy. All right. So, and then of course, you have what we call your journaling paper. So some of these papers are grid, some are dotted, and some are plain or blank. All right. So these are just some specific papers specific for different kinds of crafts. Again, these crafts that I mentioned are things that you can find in my channel. And of course, we have one of our dearest friends in the community, Yvette. Hello, Yvette. Oops, it's too small. All right. So Yvette is Yvette Olea Creates. Yes. He's also a content creator on YouTube. And also you can find her on Instagram and Facebook as well. She's a design team member of so many awesome products that we actually use. So thank you so much, my friend Yvette, for dropping by. All right. So next, after specific crafts, what else? Okay. So then you have your paper storage tips. Okay. When I started into paper crafting, I've been crafting since I was young, but I never actually hoarded or started buying as much as I did. Okay, when I think it was in 97 or 98 when I started. And that was because my sister it's almost my sister's birthday at that time. And you know how it is when you have a friend or a family member where it's like they have everything. So it's so hard to find this perfect gift for them. And so I said, you know what? And then I was in the mall, and then I chanced upon this awesome store that for us here in the Philippines during that time, we didn't have any like big craft stores like you guys have in the western side of the world. You have Michael's, Hobby Lobby, all these things we did not have. If you want to buy like craft supplies or office supply, you go to an office supply, right? So very limited paper, mostly just art paper, things like that. We don't have like pattern paper, cardstocks, none of those, right? And so when I chanced upon this store, it's like, I was blown away. It was the first time I've seen something like that here in the Philippines. Whenever I travel, I see those kinds of stores, but not here. And so that started the rabbit hole for me. I started buying and buy. It's like I needed to go to that store almost every day. It's like, oh, is there something new? Okay, by the time I know it, I have all of their papers, and then scrapbooking became such a big, big thing here in the Philippines. And then physical stores, different crafters started opening up in the metro. And by the time I know it, I started with one bag that could carry maybe about 30 to 40 12 by 12 pattern papers. Eventually, it became 2 bags, 3 bags, 4 bags, half a dozen bags. And do you remember those carts where you have wheels and you use them when you want to crap with somebody else, like as a group? So, and then I went into that, and then the next is sister. You know the rest. Okay. And the least I know could relate to that. The least is a stamper girl. All right. You're still young. Oh, I love you, Yvette. Do you know that? Oh, what it was? Every time I would go out, see my white hair. The thing is, my hair grows so fast, even if I have it dyed. After like 3 days, the white roots are visible again. So it's like, I got so tired of trying to hide it. So I just let it be nowadays. But every time I would go out, it's like, and I go to the bathroom or I line up for whatever. Senior? I said, not yet. So it's like, because of this white hair, people would always think that I am older than what I am actually am. Or it's just maybe I just look haggard. So they think I'm, older than I am. But anyways, that was a short story of my, journey into paper. And so the next problem became, how do I store the paper? Right? I know Yvette just recently decluttered. And so it has become probably one of the things that Yvette also could share. Okay, how she stores her paper, items for crafting. That includes maybe embellishments and other paper related products, right? So there you go. Lina saying hi to Anne as well, and Laurie and Martine. Hello. Thank you so much. I think you're new to the channel. Thank you so much for dropping by. All right. Hi, Yvette and Martine from Susan. Okay. From Susan. Okay. Embrace the gray. I did. Yes, right. I really am wanting to, but it's like every time they would say, senior. And then one time I just said, okay, I'll just say yes. Because you know what? The line was so long if you're not senior. And if you're senior, there's a shorter line to the restroom, right? But don't do that. Okay. Anyway, just saying. So going back, okay, paper storage tips. First and foremost, if you can store them flat, okay, to avoid warping, that would be great. But in doing so, especially if you have like 12 by 12 paper, I know they would eat up a bigger space. And if you have a lot, let's say you have like 400, 500, like I do have to store my paper. If you want to check out my craft room or craft space, you can check out. I have several what do you call this, craft room tour videos in my channel. They're normally housed in a calyx. So the calyx can hold about 13 to 14 inches. So, and then it has pull out bins like that. So one of that can carry about 1,000 to 1,500 12 by 12 paper, depending on, how thick the paper is. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. 20 cubes with about 1,000 in each. So you do the math. That's how much paper I have accumulated. So normally I would tease my friends, I could actually create a scrapbook for all the people I know, and I would still probably have paper left over. Crazy, right? And so storage had become an issue. And so as much as I can, if I can, I really have not been buying paper. Okay, unless it's something that I have really used up and I really need to. Okay? Because storing them flat is gonna be hard. Right? So it's better to store them vertically, okay, to store more, and it's easier to get it, right? So imagine if you have like 1,000 paper, one stacked on top of the other, and then so, oh, I want the one in the middle. How about the one at the bottom? So when you pull it out, you can tear it, you can crumple it. So it's better, okay? But then again, when you stand the paper up and they're flimsy, they're like probably paperweight pattern papers, it may, twist and turn like that, unless they're very, very thick that, it occupies the whole width of the container, paper container that you have. Okay, so another issue that I eventually had was, how do I store them? In the beginning, I stored my How about you guys? How do you store your paper? In the beginning, I stored them by manufacturers. And then I arranged them by alphabetical. Okay, so alphabetical, right? So do you have, what was A? American Crafts. And then you have B, you have Basil, you have Basic Gray, you have all of, yeah. I'm dating myself, right? So, and then the list goes on. And then eventually, I realized that the way I craft, the way I create things is I like mixing collections. So I realized that the way I was doing it was no longer working for me. Again, it's different for everyone. Okay, I'm just sharing how I did mine. And then what up to now, this is what I do. So unless it's really a collection like my Mintai, so it's one collection, I do not separate them. Okay, but otherwise, like let's say the DCWV, where it's like a collection of like this thick and stuff like that, I separated them into these categories. So I have flowers, I have stripes, whether it be vertical, diagonal, horizontal, they go into the stripes. And then I have squares, I have circles. Okay, and then I have flourishes. Yes, there was a time where flourishes were the in thing, whether it be stamp, paper, what have you, everything had to have a flourish, right? So there you go. So stripes, circle, square, what else? Square, and then of course you have to have your sentiments. And then another is like images, meaning like you have an image of a rock, you have image of a tree, of a mountain, of an airplane. So those go into those. And for me, that is now what works. Because let's say, for example, and then from each of these, I arrange them by color. So I have green, the colors of the rainbow: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, right? So all the purple circles, okay, or all the orange circles, all the red circles, all the yellow circles. So like that. Okay, and of course the sentiments. Okay, I almost forgot. Sentiments. All sentiments go together. So if I am working on a project, it's so easy, and I have like labels on each of them, so I know that, all right, these are what do you call this? Squares, circles, flowers. I have like several layers of flowers because I love flowers, right? So I will just get, maybe I need this, I need that. So it's easier than being in a collection. Again, that's what's work for me. Okay, so sorting by color, size, or type depends upon how you use it and how you work. Okay, and then next is use acid-free containers. All right. So you know how those like DIY stuff, they're nice and pretty, but if you did not seal them, that may cause degradation eventually in the papers that you store. So there are a lot of what do you call this? Plastic containers like the Sterilite and other brands, okay, that can actually hold 12 by 12. And again, I started with the 12 by 12, my friends, right? And of course, your Dollar Tree, Dollar General, you know, those, there's no more dollar store, right? The last time I was in the US, it's already $1.25. I heard that now it's $1.50, $1.75. All right. So anyway, so something like that. You can find those kinds of things there, right? So make sure that it's just free from dust and the elements, okay? And if you can find those, what do you call this? Silica gel, okay? And put them, especially if you are in a humid place like here in the Philippines, so that it can absorb moisture. Because, of course, we don't like moisture in our paper. And yes, avoid humidity and direct sunlight, right? That's why even in museums, right, they do not allow, what do you call this? Light photography, because those lights, all right, so sunlight more so, actually can degrade the color or the images of your projects in time. All right, so that's the paper storage tips, just very basic, okay, that you may want to check out. Okay, Susan said that, okay, it's small, let's transfer to this. Okay, Susan says in 8.5 by 11 Irish, there, that's another brand, Irish storage containers sorted by colors, one for specialty, and then she has another 12 by 12 in Irish storage containers as well, in 2 rolling carts. There you go. You know, rolling carts, I do have them, are very useful in such a way that if you don't want to craft in a specific place, you can easily drag it right where you want to. So normally I have several of those, which depending on what project I have, I'll put the things I need over there and then drag them. And this is how Susan actually stores her paper. And you might want to check this out because this might actually work for you. Again, as I mentioned, storing the papers can also be a very personal thing. Depends on how you use it and what you have available. All right. So by type, okay, so she stores it very similar to mine. So by type, so you have pattern, glitters, metallics, and 6x6. All right. So 8.5 by 11. So that's the letter size. 12 by 12, that's the most common, regular scrapbooking size. And of course, the 6x6 for card makers. Thank you, Susan, for sharing your storage, process with all of us. Okay, so Martine is not new. Oh, yeah. So you're not a new crafter, but probably new here in the chat? Or I have not just seen your comment in the chat. Sorry, my friend, if I missed you before in the chat. You're in Quebec. It was a while since I had come. Let me see. So, maybe because my memory is really failing me lately. So thank you, Martin, for coming back. I want to apologize for everything. My English is not. Oh, no. All right. I know that Quebec is the part of Canada where it's French speaking, right? So your English is absolutely fine. You know that English is also not my first language, right? So the way I speak and, pronounce words, sometimes people is like, oh, what did she say? So when I lead MCA, I am always afraid that I might not be able to actually give out the instructions perfectly. By the way, Yvette, I miss you on MCA because Yvette, Olea creates, Yvette in the chat is my cheat mate. We love cheating when it comes to what to do and how to proceed with our projects. And we always look at Yvette for clues. Okay, again, Martine, I'm so sorry I've missed you. All right, so probably yes. I remember. I think I have actually seen you in the chat before, right? So again, Anne-Marie is still here. She's from Norway, my friends. It's afternoon for her, almost evening. All right. So your English is just fine. Thank you, Susan. Yes. Right. So yes, Martine's English is perfect. All right. And of course, we have Jana. If you have not seen that episode, Jana actually was with Lynn on LV Handcrafted's channel. And she also went live on her channel for that. Okay. With, okay, hold on. I am remembering Andrea and now my memory is failing me. Andrea and come on, Lala, you can do this. Give me a letter. Okay, hold on. Okay, it will come back to me. So it was Jana, Lynn, Andrea, and I forgot my friend. I'm so sorry. I will remember. Yes, it's the used to be a Dollar Tree. Yes, a Dollar Tree. There you go. But now it's no longer a dollar. The 5 quarter store. There you go, said Jana. Uh, oh, but normally I do because I don't really get like 1,000, viewers when I go live. So I normally remember. It's just that lately my Amalia. There you go, Amalia. Thank you, Jana. Sorry, Amalia. All right, there you go. Thank you, Susan. And that episode is so much fun because a lot of them, specifically Andrea, I think Susan was also in the Paper Ganza. They shared their experiences on Paper Ganza. So Paper Ganza is an event hosted by Craft Roulette, Mary Gunn, and a lot of our friends in the community actually went there and saw each other face to face. I only saw bits and pieces of the lives or the videos where Bitty Penny actually hosted some of them, right? It was so much fun. I wish I could join in the future, right? And we have here my dear friend Anna. Hi, Anna. All right, thank you so much for saying hi, my dear friend. Miss you, miss you. A million blessings to you as well, my dear friend. Thank you so much. Yes, Anna and I basically started content creation the same, right? So hers is she does podcast. Okay, so I will put in the link later on Anna's channel as Where Fate 5052. All right, there you go. And okay, so let's go back to our okay, so what now after paper storage? All right. So another thing that we need to know about paper is that budget friendly tips. All right. This is more for me. Hopefully for you as well. All right. So upcycle gift bags, books, and magazines. So being, a hoarder, this is something that I actually feel I should stop doing already because I have so many of them. But because I've been doing content, crafty content, and that has helped immensely in letting go of a lot of these things. I still have a lot of ways to go. So but then again, instead of buying paper, okay, that you might want to use for packaging, especially now that the holiday season is almost here, right? So here in the Philippines, when the Burr months hit, it means it's already the start of the Christmas season. So when you go to the malls, when you go to public places, you can already experience hearing Christmas songs being played. When we say Burr month, that starts in September, October, right? November and December, and up to January. We love Christmas here in the Philippines, right? So, again, you can upcycle gift bags, books, and magazines and use them as part of your paper projects. And of course, watch out for sales and promos. Again, this one I have to tell myself no more Lala. Right? But then again, there are really sales that you just can't say no to, right? But if you are utter beginner, maybe this is one of the best ways to actually start, right? So I suggest that you do not buy yet, those expensive specialty ones, right? So test out first if you really like the hobby, or if you really are interested in it, before you actually stock up on, papers. All right. Next one is demo and show and tell. All right. Compare paperweights. Okay. And which ones are best for die cutting, stamping, watercoloring. All right. So this one I will forgo. All right. Because it's best to do this when we're actually doing the die cutting, the stamping, the watercoloring. Right. Because again, I wanted this month to be all about the basics. So I will have an episode where we will be doing die cutting, where we will be doing just watercoloring, okay, and just stamping. Okay, so I will put this, hold this for a while, and then we will do that exactly when we do all of these different kinds of techniques. All right, and then let's craft together. Okay, so we will do this. This is what we're gonna do later. I will show you how I create a swatch. You know how it is when you don't have that much of a paper stock yet, then creating a swatch may not be as important as when you have a lot. Because it's so easy to get lost in your supplies. So, but having a swatch, okay, can actually help out, okay? So that you know that, oh, okay, so I have this. I need this kind of, blue or green. Okay, if you have a paper swatch, then you would know, oh, okay, I actually have it. Okay, and then test ink embossing on each paper. We're not gonna do that part though, but the label and organize we will do. Okay, in a bit. Okay, because I want to show you. Okay, we'll go back to this. Okay, so remember the GSM. Okay, it means it's actually a metric system, and it tells you. So when metric is universal. Right? So although there are some countries who still use the English, measurements, but still they do know how to do metric, right? Because metric is international. So it would actually tell you, the GSM will tell you the weight of 1 square meter of paper in grams, right? So I mentioned that earlier on. 1 square meter of paper in grams. So no matter what paper you have, okay, when you compare the 1 square meter of any paper, then you can actually compare each other. Okay, so it's easy, right? Because they're all based on that measurement of a 1 square meter. It's like in chemistry, right? So remember Avogadro's number, 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd, right? Of whatever is equal to 1 mole. Same, right? So in paper, okay, so 1 GSM just simply means that it is 1 square meter of paper, okay, weighed in grams. All right. So it's a direct measurement, okay, of density over the thickness of the paper. Okay. So for example, you have 80 GSM, which is a normal standard office printer paper. That's a little bit thicker. Because normally for just scratch paper or printing, I'm not going to be submitting it to any, important office or government office. I just do the 70 GSM, the very thin ones. But for normal printing, it's really the 80 GSM. Okay, and then you have the 300 GSM, which I mentioned earlier, is what I use for my card bases. It's between 270 to 300 GSM because I want them a little bit thicker and sturdier. So it's easy to compare across types of paper since it's always the same measurement. Right? So 1 square meter of paper and then weighed, okay, in grams. So I hope that is clear, because here comes the one that's a little bit more confusing. Okay, and that is paperweight. All right. Now, on top of, the GSM, you can also often see this measurement, like pounds or lb, okay, which is actually the basis of the weight for the paper. Okay, so you have imperial system, which is mostly used in the US. All right, so it tells you the weight in pounds, okay, of a ream. Okay, so when you say a ream of paper, it means it's actually 500 sheets or 500 pieces. So when you buy paper, like copy paper, normally it's in a ream. Okay, so it means that one ream is actually 500 pieces, and that is actually the weight. Okay, so whatever the weight of that one ream, okay, that paper, okay, which is 500 pieces, okay, is your weight in pounds. Now, each paper type, so you have bond, you have text, you have cover. These are just has its own base sheet size. Okay, in the Philippines we call it mother size, right? So when you go to the store and let's say office supply store, for you guys, I think it's Staples, and I forgot what else there is. Maybe Walmart or craft stores. When you buy a rim of paper, okay, so it's already cut, right, to letter size, A4 size, right? So A3 size. Okay. But when this one, okay, so normally those papers were cut from a bigger size paper. Okay, and we call that the mother size. Okay. So or base sheet size. Like here in the Philippines, I do have a partner store for my papers, especially my solid papers that I use for my crafting. So, like my card bases, the card bases I have are for the A2, the slimline, mini slimline, and the 5x7. So, when I order those, I order 10 sheets of the mother size, and then they will compute, say, 17 by 22. Okay, 17 inches by 22 is one mother size, and then they will compute. Okay, so per sheet, how many can they cut into a card that I need for an A2? Okay, for a 5x7, for a slimline, mini slimline. They will compute. And then times 10, because 10 sheets is their minimum for them to actually cut the paper to whatever size you have. Again, normally you do that with like you go to a specific paper seller where they do specialized cutting. Okay, but most of the time you buy your papers, if it's just a little A4 letter size or long, okay, but normally there will be excesses, right? So when I order, it's like I have about 500 already ready, right? So when I make cards, like when I do KCC 19, or sometimes when I do sheetload of cards, it's so easy to come up with the base cards because they're already ready to go, right? So that is what you call the base sheet size. Okay, so all these papers that we see that are already pre-cut and commercially available, they came from a bigger size. All right. So the same pounds can mean very different thicknesses. Okay, so when you say 2 pounds, okay, so it just simply means 500 pieces, okay, of this, but you don't know like how big was the mother size, right? You don't know. So it differs, the sizes differ. So when it comes to the weight, it's more difficult to compare, right? So like when Jennifer Maguire before would say the Solar Crest White in 80 pound, 110 pounds, I was like, what does she mean? Why is it that when I went there, the 80 seemed to be thicker than the 110? So it's like, something wrong, right? So anyways, so because I didn't actually understand yet the concept of this one, right? So unlike the GSM, where you can actually compare because it's always the same size. Your original size is, grams per square meter. This one, the original size can be different, okay, depending on the mother size. So an 80-pound text, example, an 80-pound text paper may be thinner than an 80-pound cover paper, right? So again, because this one is based on a rim, a 500 pieces of that specific paper. Again, but you don't know the original size of it. So it's hard. Okay, so not directly comparable unless you also know the paper type and the base size, right? So that if you have another paper that's the same base size, then absolutely you can compare. All right, so okay. Again, thank you so much, guys, for still being here. All right. So Susan said, okay, Susan. All right. Okay, I'm excited for this. Susan said, start saving for next year. Okay, Paper Ganza was so much fun, so awesome to me. Okay, Susan, can you message me when it's gonna be? Oh, Office Depot. Okay, there you go. So I might normally, if I go to Creator Camp, and Creator Camp is normally every September, October. Oh, it's not. Because if it's Paper Gaza just happened in July, then I have to go back if ever in September. That's too expensive. All right, I have to pray. I have to think which one to prioritize. All right, so since I've been going to Creator Camp, maybe I should try because I really want to meet you guys, right? So, all right. Okay, thank you, Susan, for that. You made me think, and yes, that's something that I should actually think about. All right. All right, next one. I hope that that's clear between GSM and those pounds. Or oh, it's so small. All right, so let's make it bigger. Okay, let me see. Uh-huh. That's the thing with vertical, right? Okay. Okay, let me see. Oops, that's the widget. Okay, I will try to do it this way and make it bigger. Okay, let me see. Oh, it doesn't want to show anymore. Oh, it's so small. Okay, anyway, it says pounds versus GSM. For example, on the left, it's so small. Oh, okay, there. I think I got it. Okay, I make it small this way. Then the other side goes away. Anyway, so I'll just explain. All right, so for example, you have 20-pound bond, okay, or a coupon bond or a copy paper. And then that is approximately equivalent to 75 GSM. Again, how did the 20-pound weight come about? That is actually the weight of that paper based on a 500 pieces. That's one rim based on its original mother size. All right? And then it's equivalent if you do it. What is the weight of that paper? Okay, 1 gram. Okay, the number of grams per square meter. So that's why GSM, grams per square meter. Then that's about approximately 75 GSM. And we know that this size or this what do you call this? This weight, 75 GSM, is actually just good for, copy paper. And then when you have your 24-pound bond, okay, that's 90. And then 80-pound would be 120. So you see that it's not equivalent. So let's 80-pound is not equivalent to 80-pound is equal to 80 GSM. No. Okay. Because it's different. Okay. Where they're coming from is different. Okay. So the weight based on pounds comes from the weight of the paper based on 500 pieces in a rim. Okay. They're based on its mother size. Okay. All right. And then summary on the lower side, actually. Okay. So you have, again, GSM is metric, imperial is pound, and grams per square meter versus pounds per 500 sheets at a set size. Okay. Is the imperial. Okay. Again, a GSM is always compares the same area, right? grams per square meter. While for the imperial or the pounds depends on the paper type size, right? And then of course you have metric or GSM used internationally, and for the pounds normally used in the US. Therefore, if you're considering paper, okay, for crafting on printing, international GSM is more consistent. Okay, so if you're buying paper in the US, right, so you'll often see pounds on the label. But remember to check the paper type, okay, so for an accurate comparison. All right, so there you go. Okay, so next. Okay, you have the paper size. Now I've ruined the size of, okay, this one. So I have to, all right. So anyway, so the paper sizes. Okay, so the paper sizes, it's too small. I'll just read it out to you guys. So for paper sizes, you have the A. All right. So the A series actually is in millimeters and inches. All right. So you have the A0, A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6, A7, A8. So I will upload this, okay, on my Facebook and Instagram. So you guys can refer to this, or maybe, yeah, you can even take a screenshot because it's too small. All right. And then in the North American standard, which is actually what we also use here in the Philippines. Okay. So you can buy, or you will find them in letter size, an 8.5 by 11. Okay, inches. So you have the legal, okay, an 8.5 by 14 inches. So it's longer. And then you have your tabloid, 11 by 17. You have your half letter, your 5.5 by 8.5. And you have your executive, which is a 725 by 10.5. All right, so there you go. And then you also have the other paper series. So you have the B series. Okay, so for books and posters based on ISO 216. So between A sizes, this is used less frequently. Okay, so the B. Okay, so for example, B5 is between A4 and A5. Okay, C series is the ISO 629, and they are the ones that actually is used for measurements of envelopes. Okay, and size to fit A series paper with a bit of room. Okay, and then you have your card sizes. All right, so you have your what was I thinking? Making it this small. Apologies, my friend. Right? So anyway, so you have A2, A6, A7, slimline, mini slimline, and then of course you have your different square cards. Okay? So again, apologies for the very small one. Okay, so notes for card makers, A2 is the most common in the US. Actually, when I was starting to do card making, because in the Philippines, our cards are a little bit bigger. So I think ours is similar to the UK. Maybe 5 by 7, that was a standard card. And then I started buying dies and embossing folders, and realized that they're actually for an A2 size card. But eventually, I began to actually like the A2 size card. For one, it's cheaper to mail, right? And so it's also cheaper to make because it's smaller, right? So eventually, I fell in love with the A2 size card. But eventually, dabbled on into the 5 by 7 back again, and the mini slimline and slimline cards. All right. And then let's craft together. All right. So let me just, okay, do this. All right. Okay. All right. So please share your favorite. Okay. Whoop. It's not even moving anymore. Okay. Please share your favorite papers in the comments. Okay. And also post if ever, okay, you got inspired about this and talk about paper. Okay, so post with Crafty Basics paper or hashtag CEDA, hashtag CEDA 2025. And yes, I'm Mommy Guide Inc. on all the socials. Okay, Hold on. Let's just finish my PowerPoint. So tomorrow, guys, I'm actually going to talk about adhesives. So which glue for what project? So of course, please do tune in tomorrow for that. All right. So now let's go into the actual specific paper that I've been talking about. Okay. They haven't set a date yet. All right. They're still recovering from this event. I am sure it took a lot of, I actually hosted the craft getaway not this year, a year ago, 2 years ago. And I know how difficult it is to actually come up with an event where the loot bag alone took me like almost a month to put together. The sponsors, the logistics, especially in my case, I did it in an island in one of the best beaches here in the Philippines. So I can imagine the logistics that it would take to actually do this, right? So congratulations again to Craft Roulette, Bitty Penny, everybody who was part and is involved in that. And to all the participants, I'm so envy you guys, but I'm so happy to have heard what transpired and what you guys did during the event. All right, so this is actually a sample of, okay, let me see if I can make this a little bit uh, nearer. Okay, let me see, B. All right, there you go. So this is what we mean by swatch. Okay, so you can take a sample of the paper. This is a swatch from one of my partner store for my show, who is a printer. Okay, so sometimes I need things to be printed. Okay, that like for projects that commissioned work. So my printer, it's okay, but if I really want like professional looking printed products, I normally would go to them, and they have this watch or something like this. So it would tell you what paper it is. And the nice thing about them is not only do they tell you what it is, like this one, it says, not the girl, the weight, my friend. There you go. It says, all right, so C2S, 180 pounds. Okay, 250 GSM. Again, what does that mean? It means that, okay, so the weight the weight in grams per square meter of this paper is 250. Okay, but in terms of weight per a rim is actually 180 pounds. All right. Now, the thing is, it not only gave us the name, but it also gave me samples of what it would look like if it was printed on this kind of paper. So it would give me a feel of what the actual thickness, texture, like this is a matte coated. Okay, so this is a fold coat. US Cal 18. Okay, so this is sticker. So it shows me already a sample with prints on it. Okay, so this is an example of a specialty paper. Although you don't see it, it has texture. This is a Mohawk Via Felt, bright white, 180 GSM, 80 pounds. Right? So it does give me a feel and the look. So if ever I want something printed, it would also tell me that, oh, this is the kind of, what it would look like if I have it printed. All right. So this is the swatch. Okay. And then I have another partner store in my show. This is from Prestige Paper. They're the number one provider of specialty paper here in the Philippines. They bring in various brands from all over the world, specifically Italian papers. Okay, so for crafters just like me. And since I actually do commission work, okay, so for every now and then, like say invitations or specific crafty projects or weddings or stuff like that. So I have a swatch of the papers that they have. right? So, like for example, this one is called cocktail. So this is to what a 290 GSM would feel like, and this is what it looks like. This is curacao. It has a little bit of shine, right? So this one is actually Dorian Gray, but it comes in 290 GSM and 120 GSM. So depends on what kind. So having a swatch of the different paper suppliers, and sometimes also because sometimes my papers get used up and I don't have. But since I have a swatch of the papers that my suppliers have, I can easily go through it and determine which one. And if I have a client, all I need to do is pull this out and I'll ask the client, okay, so if you want a box, okay, so what kind? Okay, so she will choose or he will choose, and then I will just order, have it pre-cut, and then I assemble. Right? So having a swatch is actually quite or very, very important. Again, if you eventually turn this into like a business or a side hustle. So it does tell me again what is the name, okay, and the grammage. Okay, so I love, okay, and there you go. So they even have like the bright gold, bright silver, dull gold. Okay, so these are the ones that are I normally use for Christmas, right? So and the swatch is based on, so it's like this one are the colors, these are the fancy ones, and it also tells me like if this is all right. So here it also tells me what the mother size is, so I can more or less compute how many of this, okay, let's say for example this sheet, okay, the grammage is 230, the colors are here. If I need, let's say, 200 pieces to create 200 pieces of cards, right? So how many of these do I need to buy, right? So it's easy because they already give you the measurements. Another nice thing about this company is that they believe in sustainability. As you know, paper, okay, is a resource that is not unlimited. Okay. And so the nice thing about Prestige Paper is that they make sure that the papers that they use and the suppliers that they go for actually have a sustainability program. Okay, not only that, okay, there's absence, no heavy metal present in their products. So heavy metal is absent. It's elemental chlorine free as well. It's pH neutral, so safe for memory keeping. Well managed forests, selected secondary fibers, and long life. Right? So that's why I love using Prestige Paper. Fedrigoni is one of the products that they actually bring in, right? So Fabriano also, so that one. Okay. So again, those are just examples of swatch. Now, how about you? How do you swatch your papers? Okay, so again, I'll just show you. Remember, okay, this is a local brand. This is, I think, like similar to your what's that, Staples or whole Office Depot. We have Office Warehouse, right? So if you buy a rim, this is one rim, okay, I just flattened it out. See, it's 500 sheets. Okay, so that's the size 8.27 by 11.69. That's actually the size of an A4. Okay, and substance 20 or 20 pounds. Okay, 70 GSM. So you know that it's actually, okay, the thinner copy paper, the cheaper one. All right, so that is how now when you go to the paper store and you see those numbers, so you now already know what those numbers stand for. All right. Okay. And then, okay, so I will show you. Okay, before we actually end for today, yes, okay, it's really all about paper today. We will come to the part where we will incorporate all of these, the papers, the tools, when we focus on specific crafting techniques. All right, so that I don't overwhelm you with a lot of things. Okay, some examples of specialty papers. So you know that you do have your like corrugated, craft papers. Okay, so you have your different textured papers like linen. Okay, and then you have like marbled ones, right? So you even have this kinds. So this kind is actually one of the latest releases from, of course, my partner store for the papers I use on my channel. Yes, I will be putting links to this. Okay, it's an affiliate link, and if you check them out or buy through the links, I will do get a small commission with no extra cost to you. And actually, that helps, keeping me, that helps in making me do more crafty projects in the channel. Okay. So, for example, this one. Oops, sorry. Okay, so there's actually 20 sheets, 8.5 by 11. So it's good for laser, copier, and inkjet. And it's actually a white one, the new Java, that's the product variant, and it's white 200 GSM. All right, so this was given to me, I think last year or earlier this year when I did a demo, okay, for one of their exhibits. So they do send me samples of products or papers that come in. So every now and then they have new products that come in. So it's such a blessing to be able to have. Okay, so you'll see that there's a small hole. So you'll see that this one is actually the moss. Okay, the nice thing about this, it's like the basil, all right, or the American crafts where there's a little bit of a texture. But this one's the pastel line. Okay, so this one is French pink. Okay, again, I will put the links to this if you are in the Philippines. Cherry blossom. Okay, this is the French blue in 180 GSM. This is the aqua, 180 GSM. Okay, this is the ivory at 200 GSM. This is thicker. Okay, again, this is the peach. Okay, at 180 GSM. This is the light violet, 180 GSM. Oh, I love this one. Okay, this is actually jade, but they call it jade, but it looks like teal to me, so it reminds me of Lynn. So it's 180 GSM. And this is cerulean blue. Cerulean blue. All right, there you go. Whew. And this is an example of parchment that you actually can use for, invitation. So very similar to like a vellum paper. Okay, so Susan said, I don't have enough to swatch. That is beautiful. Okay, it means that you are not hoarding, Susan, but you're actually creating and using them up. That is awesome. But just in case, okay, in the event that you do have, okay, so what you can do is, okay, so before you store them, okay, you can actually create a swatch. Okay? Of course, these kinds of swatch, they're so nice and beautiful and such. But then again, these were given by, the supplier of the papers where I get my papers from. Right? But if you just want, like, for example, the ones that we use for our card making and stuff like that, if only I can find my paper trimmer. So there you go. Here. Okay, hold on. I will just get it. Okay. All right. So you can have something like this. Okay. This one is from PF Crafts. Again, one of my partner stores here in the show. So they have this puncher where you can create, this tag, which is 1/2, if you have a 2.5, or you have 2 inches. Okay, so it can create 3 different kinds of tags. So you can create a tag from the papers that you have, and then collate and put them in a small ring. And there you have your swatch, and you can put it at the side of your table, right? So you have an idea of the things or the papers that you have, right? So what you can do is similar to what they have. All right, so let's do a 2 inches one. Okay, so you cut, let's say, or the best way to swatch them is after you've used them, and then those scraps, see, look, if you have 2 inches, the nice thing about this one is it fits exactly onto that groove, which is your 2. Okay, and then your 1.5 fits in the smallest one, and your 2.5 will actually land onto this one. Since this is the 2 inches, it lands into the middle with a groove. So perfectly, it's so easy to actually line it up like so, and then just punch. All right, so there you have it. Okay, so you have an actual, okay, a swatch, and then you just cut everything like so. Okay, maybe I want to do a 2x3. All right, and then I cut the other papers again. Okay, I would highly suggest that you do this with scraps. All right, so, but then it's okay for me because I actually will be using this for a project. So it's okay that I'm cutting a bit of it. Okay, and then cut like so. Okay, and then 3. You can even like cut them first before you actually punch it. So you just punch, punch, punch. And then after that, what do you do? Okay, so after cutting it, okay, I do use a labeler. Okay, and then I will just okay, I'm erasing because I just recently used this. So and then I will put what it is. Okay, what kind of paper it is. Okay, so for example, I don't know what kind it is. Let's say, just pretend, all right, that this is Capiz. Or maybe let's just do that it is New Java. Okay, so New Java. Okay, and then New Java white. No, it's not white. It's the purple. Okay, New Java peach. Okay, New Java peach. All right. Okay. Oh, I forgot. I should have also added like the grammage, okay, how heavy it is. All right. So pretend that I've already also printed the grammage, and then I will just put it either to the side or to the back of it. Okay. So there you go. So imagine if you have several of this and then you put a ring in the middle. So easily, if you need to check out, okay, I need more of this. I've run out. Okay, what is this one? All right. This is a New Java peach, something like that. Right? So it's so easy because you already have a swatch. Okay. Normally, I would suggest that you swatch only your solid cardstocks. Okay, whether it be whether it be textured or just plain one, because those are the ones that you can use and use again. The pattern ones, not so, because normally the patterns, once you've used it and you've used them all, unless you have a specific product for it, you're good to go, right? So you don't really need to replenish. All right, so your pattern paper. And that is it for us for tonight as we talk more about the paper. All right. So again, I thank you so, so much for joining me tonight. This is again Craft Everyday in August, where we feature the basics, right? So unlike other episodes where I actually do, perform different projects every session. So for this next few days, we will just focus on the different kinds of supplies. Okay, so yesterday is I showcased the different kinds of basic tools that you will need if you want to double into the different kinds of crafts that I actually showcased in this channel. Today, I'm actually featuring paper. Tomorrow, I'll be featuring adhesives. Right? And after that, some other tools, I will go into them in depth and in detail. And then after featuring the different kinds of tools, how to store them, how to take care of them, right? Different techniques you can use with them. Then we focus on the technique. And that's where we can actually come up with different crafty projects already. And who knows, maybe one of these days you'll have somebody here with me crafting alongside me for one of our CEDA episodes. All right. So with that, thank you so much, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Okay, for another crafty nights here at Mommy Guide Inc. Again, if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to hold that thought. All right. So don't forget to hit that like button. Okay, and then of course, share away, my friends, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out every time I do have a live video or an uploaded edited video. And finally, if you like what you've seen thus far, please do consider subscribing. With that, thank you so much, and I'll see you again for another Crafty Nights on the Basics here at Mommy Guiding tomorrow. Bye!